everybody. Tonight we have actually two meetings, as we do this time every year. The first meeting we will have is the annual organizational meeting for the Chittenden Solid Waste District Board of Commissioners, and then we will follow that up with our regular meeting for June. So we'll start right off with the organizational meeting. First item on the agenda there is introduction of new board members. We will be having one new board member starting as of July 1st, I believe it is, and that is Rob Green, representing Burlington. He'll be taking Chapin's place. I believe, Chapin, you'll be the alternate, is that correct? Or
It's still undecided.
still undecided, okay.
You won't be able to get rid of me, trust me.
Okay, all right, good. So anyway, welcome, Rob. Really delighted to have you. As we say, I try to run a very open meeting and, encourage people to speak up, let us know what you think. And also welcome you to serve on various committees and that kind of thing. So welcome, thank you. So the next item is the election of the offices. And I always like to use last year's minutes to help us guide us in what we need to do here. So I'll encourage you to follow along on that. So the first office is the chairmanship. I am perfectly willing to continue to serve, but I'm also perfectly willing to give the gavel to anyone who would so want that. So,
Second.
Yes.
Punishment.
okay, all right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Well, thank you for your vote of confidence. I will do my best to honor that vote and continue to lead the board. Next is the vice chair. Yes. We have a motion.
Continued punishment at a higher office.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Okay, next is the Secretary Treasurer. I am told Alan is unfortunately not able to attend tonight, but I did talk with him, and he is willing to continue to serve in that capacity. So, okay, we have a motion for Alan and a second. Okay, any further nominations? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes excellently. Let's see. Okay, next is the executive board. I have talked to, just as a background, I've talked to the members of the current exec board. Of course, Chapin is stepping off as the representative. Normally, for the exec board, we like to have our largest municipality represented. Again, because they have the most citizens and are the most impacted, potentially, by what we do. We also usually like to have the host town representative on there. This is not in our charter, but it's what we've done in the past. Craig Abrams was unable to be here tonight, but he did say he was willing to continue to serve on the executive board should we choose to do that. And I believe that both Alan and Michelle as well are willing to continue to serve. And of course, the chair in the charter is the fifth member. So that's kind of where things stand. So do we have any motions?
So one question, do we nominate you also for the executive committee, or is just a given?
It's a given because it's written in our charter that the chair is the member of.
So with that, I would like to make a motion to nominate Rob Green to the executive board from Burlington. I'd like to nominate Alan Nye from Essex and Essex Town. I'd like to nominate Michelle Davia from Westford. And I'd like to nominate Craig Abrams from Williston to the executive committee, executive board committee.
Have a second. Are there any other nominations? Okay, great. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay, excellent. Next is granting of authority. This is to authorize the exec board to approve expenditures up to $100,000 Again, this is, I believe it's in our charter, or at least it's what we've been doing for a long time. So do we have a motion?
Second?
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay, great. Let's see, and then a second motion is usually needed here in this in terms of authorizing the general manager to expend up to $25,000 without further approval. We have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Excellent. Okay. And then the next is the Finance Committee. I'm very grateful to find out that Leslie and Alan and Michelle are all willing to continue to serve as the Finance Committee.
Have a new volunteer?
Oh, we have a new volunteer? Okay, so that'd be great. Nina's willing to too. So I'll open the floor to nominations then at this point in
I
time.
nominate Nina for the Finance Committee.
Okay.
I would nominate Alan Nye.
Okay, so, okay, Nina, Leslie, and Alan Nye at this point.
And I'll nominate myself.
It is a three-person board,
Oh, okay.
so, with four. Need an odd number, of course, for voting purposes, so,
I
yeah, it's a non-voting member. that
I
is
will be
not-
willing to let Nina gain some experience.
Excellent, okay.
Thank you. Welcome.
Nina, thank you. That's great. So, again, three people, Leslie, Nina, and Alan Nye is the motion and second at this point. Are there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Great, thank you very much, especially Nina, the new member. I think you'll find it's a great way to learn about the operations of the district, and, really do appreciate your commitment there. Wonderful. Okay, let's see. Meeting schedule is the next item there. I believe Amy has included the meeting schedule. In general, the exec board meets on the third Monday, although in certain months that ends up being the second Monday, depending on how the calendar falls. Because the full board always meets on the fourth Wednesday, except in November and December when we move it to the third Wednesday due to the holidays. So you see the schedule hopefully in your handout, and any questions on the schedule?
I would move the schedule with a caveat at the end to authorize the chair of commissioners to consult with the general manager to cancel a board meeting if it's deemed unnecessary.
Great, excellent, okay. And we did have a second, okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. All right. Set interest rate for late payment. This is to set the interest rate for late payment for member towns if assessments are established. Just to let you know, assessments haven't been established since the first 2 years of the district, I believe. The very first 2 years, and then, so it's been, well over 25 years, so would not anticipate this ever.
I would move that to set the interest rate at 1% per month for member towns if assessments are established.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Great, excellent, thank you. Next would be to establish a fidelity bond for the officers. It's $500,000 per interest is what we've done in the past. I believe we did have a discussion on this a few years ago, and it was still determined that $500,000 was appropriate, so.
I would move to establish a fidelity bond for the officers in the amount of $500,000.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. All right, then approval of check signing privileges. This is to authorize certain members, including the chair, the general manager, the administrative manager, and the treasurer to sign checks and electronic transfers. And further, the other important thing, for control, we also say that any check that's greater than, or transfer greater than $25,000 needs 2 signatures. So
I would move that.
we have a motion, and we have a second. Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. And I believe that's the end. Is there any other
Motion.
business?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you to everyone who's agreed to serve in both on this board as well as in the offices and the various committees. That's just very great and helpful. Really appreciate your dedication. Okay, next we'll open up the regular board meeting for June of 2016. First item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Are there any other additional items to be brought up? I don't know if Jen or do you know of any other additional items at this point? Okay. All right. Next is public comment period. This is the period we normally give for members of the public to talk about items that are not on the agenda. I think there's only one true member of the public. Do you have anything, Tony, that you wanted to say? All right, okay, all right. If someone comes in and wants to talk, we'll give them time, of course. So next, the thing I've been looking forward to for a very long time now and I'm most excited about for tonight is the introduction of our new general manager. And Sarah Reeves, as we've talked about to this point in executive session for various reasons of confidentiality, but now we can talk in open session. So I asked Sarah to join us tonight to introduce herself and give you some background on what she's done in the past and have her say a few words about, you know, the future and leading the district. And then after that, we will ask for, you have the contract in your packet, and we'll ask for approval for myself to sign that on the board side of things. So let me turn it over to Sarah Reeves, and let her introduce herself.
Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm first and foremost want to say thank you to everyone here in the board for your patience. The main reason that I had asked for some additional time and for the confidentiality was the Rhode Island General Assembly generally doesn't finish their work until sometime in June, and they in fact did not finish until 6:11 a.m. this past Saturday morning. So because of the nature of my job, I have a lot of activity up at the State House. I'm the lead lobbyist for Rhode Island Resource Recovery, so we had a lot of bills and projects going that we really wanted to see through, so I greatly appreciate your patience and your time, and I'm thrilled at this opportunity. I am a born and bred Rhode Islander, so I've been living in New England my entire life. Love it here and couldn't think of anywhere else that I'd rather be. And in fact, was not looking for a job. So the main reason that we did was my husband had applied for a job down at Castleton University, which he received. So I thought, well, if we're going to make a leap, the place to go is Vermont. And just was looking, in general, and when this came up, I thought, wow. An opportunity to actually do work I love in a place that I love. And I had to apply. But trash was not always my passion. You're probably surprised about that, but if anyone had told a 17-year-old me that I'd be working in trash and that I would find joy in other people's trash, they would have said, you are absolutely insane. And yet here we are. So it's been an interesting road. I'm not an environmental scientist. I am not an engineer. I trained in political science, and my experience really started with the Sierra Club. I was an environmental advocate for the Rhode Island chapter of the Sierra Club, and I worked on land use issues. Anti-sprawl was a very, very big issue for me. I worked on clean water, and towards the end of my time at the Sierra Club on waste and recycling. Right from there, I went to work for a municipality. So I went to work for the town of Smithfield, Rhode Island, as their recycling coordinator. So I went from a very pie in the sky, rainbows and unicorns view of what the world should be to boots on the ground. I was answering the phone, answering the recycling questions, and my bin got cracked and got hit by the truck. Can you bring me a new one? Sure. I worked with our haulers very closely. We had two haulers, one who did the trash, one who did the recycling. Worked very, very closely with them, developed great relationships. They were fantastic partners, and implemented a first in the state program that actually was the idea of the haulers. And so we really valued their input so much that we created this program, and it was designed to increase participation. And we did that. We went from about 70% recycling participation up to about 92% through this program. So it was that communication with our haulers, with our residents, and working with our town council, who was very supportive, that got those programs through. So it was a great community to work in, small community, but really helped me to see that, you know, you could have the pie or you could have the practical, and my love really was in the practical, even though I love pie. So from Smithfield, I went on to the job of resource recovery, and Rhode Island Resource Recovery is very similar to Chittenden Solid Waste District. We are a quasi-public agency. We are responsible for the entire state's solid waste management, and my job was the recycling part. So what was unusual about when I came on board was I was responsible not only for programs and outreach and education, but also for MRF operations. So I had both sides, and I loved it. I loved the technical part. I loved the operations. I loved understanding why we could do what we could do and why we couldn't do what we could do. Because part of my job was to explain to people why you can put this in your bin, but you can't put this in your bin, but it's all plastic. Isn't all plastic the same? And no. So that was a great opportunity to have both sides of the story. And as my job evolved over the years, took on more of a policy direction. We worked on a lot of legislative activities, obviously. We got a lot of laws passed. I worked on our state's e-waste DPR law, paint law, the mattress law. This past last week, I'm not sure if it was 2 a.m. or 1 a.m., they passed a CFL law, so a mercury lamp EPR law. So I have a lot of experience in helping to shepherd those programs through. Another big piece that we did, similar, you're talking about the assessments, Rhode Island also has not raised the disposal fees for the municipalities in 25 years. That needs to change, and it is changing. So over a course of 2.5 years, I worked with our municipalities, with the state legislature, and we designed a strategy to do a lot of outreach, a lot of talking, involving them in the conversations, involving them in the process, and came up with a methodology so that they know what to expect, when to expect it, and that it is logical to them. And that was a great experience too. It took 2.5 years. It wasn't overnight. So I have a lot of experience in kind of helping to move programs through over time and involving a lot of stakeholders and listening to what they have to say. The idea that we went into with that process was not what ended up at the end, but what ended up at the end was a result of the collaboration. That was really great. So, you know, I think I have a lot of varied experience, like I said, from very pie in the sky, unicorn and rainbow, to very practical. And I saw this opportunity as a way to kind of take that next step. In Rhode Island, really, my next step was to be the executive director of the corporation. So, well, I could stay where I was, or I could take a chance and really expand and try something new. And this opportunity to try something new with such a great group of people, I really couldn't pass it up, and I am so thankful that you're giving me this opportunity. You know, for the future, you know, it's not often that a new GM or a new executive director comes into a group that is so well run already. One of my questions, you know, with the search team, I think on both sides, the staff and the executive committee, was, is there anything nuclear that's going to be exploding? You know, what's the red hot something that I need to handle right away? And there really isn't anything, and that is kind of a miracle, which is a blessing for me. I get to actually talk to people first instead of having to put out fires. So kind of for the next 6 months or so, I really want to just talk to people. I want to talk to the staff and understand more about what makes them tick. I want to go to all of the communities. I'd love to hold either open houses or just meet and greets with everybody in each community to learn what's special and unique about each member of the district. And just looking forward to helping. It's now, this board is so well-run and this district is so well-run that my main hope is to not screw it up. So I would appreciate a lot of help in doing that, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about anything. So, but thank you again.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Any questions for Sarah?
I'd like to welcome you on board.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody
Thanks.
else? Again, the search committee, as soon as we saw Sarah's resume, we're like, oh, this seems like the right person. Narrowed it down, had a touchy situation where we thought she was out, and then we contacted her and she was in if we delayed, so we were so glad we were patient.
Thank you.
And, when we met her, it was obvious it was the right choice, so we were just delighted. So, very happy about that. The contract was in your packet. The main thing that's really changed is just the starting date. We've now narrowed down to August the 8th with Sarah's move schedule and schedule for the summer and all that. That ended up being the best day to start. But otherwise, pretty much everything we've talked about in the executive session is the same. I don't know, Amy, do you want to add anything regarding the contract?
That's the only thing that we changed from the
Okay.
last meeting.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we have a motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Excellent, very good.
Thank you very
So
much.
we will be-
Appreciate it. Thank you.
My thanks, sincerest thanks to the search committee, including the staff that were part of the search. It was a long process, started about a year ago, and I think we made an excellent choice in our contractor, but everybody put a lot of work into it, and really, thank you very much. It was great to see. So the second contract before you is interim general manager. This would allow Tom Moreau to serve part-time through August. Which would cover the gap between when he steps down next week as the full-time general manager and when Sarah comes on board. Plus, it gives a little overlap so that Sarah and Tom can connect. We have a motion. We have a second. Amy, do you want to just mention anything on that? I think it's pretty straightforward, too.
Same as the last, last meeting.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, next is the minutes of May the 25th. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? Okay, any additions, corrections, deletions?
Spencer? Chapin?
Corrections?
I'd be,
Yeah, usually I do. These were perfect, especially the recognition of our former general manager.
Very much so. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Great, thank you. All right, I'll turn finance over to Susan as always.
Okay, thanks. Section 5, the finance, you have the usual report of warrants, the last two warrants totaling $828,000 that have been reviewed by the finance committee, with the largest ones listed there for your information. You see that we are completing the purchase of the Murph glass equipment. Those are some of the larger ones this time. Any questions on that page? And on the back is the report of the cash and investment balances at the end of May, totaling about $6.4 million, $6,384,334 as of the end of May, including all the investments and cash on hand. Any questions on that page?
Excellent. No other questions on finance? Any other finance topics? Okay, great. Let's see, next is e-waste contract, and I believe that's Jen, is that right?
Thanks, Paul. So just to give everyone a brief recap of this past program year with the e-waste program. So this is a producer responsibility program. It's been running since 2012, and it's mostly, the state has a state standard plan, and they contract to implement that plan on behalf of the manufacturers. So we were in our, the second year of a 2-year contract with the National Center of Electronics Recycling. Last October was the beginning of that second year with that contractor, when they notified the collectors that they were no longer going to be paying for the collection of the electronic waste. CSWD collects at all of our drop-off centers, the environmental depot, and we were being paid 5 cents a pound. This was because of the downturn in the commodity markets. So there was a lot of pushback. The board was not happy. CSWD staff pushed back, threatened to stop collection, and essentially what would result in a falling apart of the e-cycles program statewide, because many of the collectors were very upset about it as well. Ultimately, after numerous meetings with the state, they agreed to, they worked with a contractor who was able to continue payments of 4 cents per pound for CSWD, and agreed that they would immediately work on an RFP, go out to bid early for a new contract, bid the entire program over again, and reset the program year to start July 1st this year instead of October 1st. So they did that. They went out for bid, and during these discussions, we also emphasized that we've never been paid really the cost of what our collection costs are, which we had estimated was somewhere around 7.5 to 8 cents per pound. They asked for that evidence from us, as well as a few other solid waste districts. We all came in within a similar number. So when they bid that contract back out, they stipulated in the RFP that they had to pay the collectors a set rate, and that the rate varied based on the collector's ability to store materials. So the more materials they were able to store, the more you get collected, because it's a more efficient system that way. So collectors were offered, in the RFP that the state issued, they required the contractor to pay collectors a range from 5 cents to 8 cents per pound, depending on their storage capacity. So it was an even playing field for all the bidders. They all knew what they were going to have to pay for the collectors. It's been written into the contract. The contract is starting July 1st. It was awarded to the same contractor that currently holds the state e-waste contract, which makes that an easier process. There's not going to really be any transition of contractors, which is nice. Good Point Recycling is the recycler, the primary recycler under this contract in Middlebury. And the National Center of Electronics, NICER, is electronics recycling has issued CSWD a termination of their contract at the end of this month, and an agreement, which is in your packet, for the new collection program starting July 1st. Depending on the facility, Lee has some facilities that will be the 4 pallet capacity, which is will be reimbursed at 6 cents per pound. And Some of them will be 8 pallet capacity or more, which is 8 cents per pound. So we anticipate that with this change in our reimbursement for collection costs, we're going to be going from what we had budgeted for, which was 5 cents a pound, to this 6 to 8 cents a pound, and we anticipate that our revenue is going to increase from $43,078 to $67,368 for a total of $24,290 more than what we budgeted. What's that? For FY17, thank you. So we don't typically come to the board when we're getting paid for a contract, but because this has been so tumultuous and because you've been very involved and very supportive of pushing back at the state, I would like to acknowledge that the state was extremely responsive. Alyssa Shorin, the commissioner, Kathy Jamieson, Chuck Schwer, the head of the solid waste division, really worked hard with CSWD to come to some agreements on terms and conditions and, changing the program year and getting the RFP out quickly. They definitely sided with us in the situation and wanted to make it right. So I think that was, it was excellent on their behalf. I'd like to acknowledge that. So as I said, we don't typically come to the board when we're getting paid for materials. We have a lot of materials that we do get paid to collect batteries in the past, used oil, but because this has been such a process, we wanted to inform the board and ask for the general manager's authorization to sign the contract with NYSER to continue collecting under the program, under the conditions that are in the
Do you have a
contract.
motion? Motion from, and a second, okay, all right. Questions on this, discussion on this? Ted, you didn't, okay. Yes, Dirk?
Starting to decide, if the general manager is incapable of signing a document before it's supposed to become,
He will be back on Monday.
I understand, but the real question is, if they're incapacitated to the point where they can't sign and something has to happen, is there an assistant that will be able to sign that in their stead?
Well, Tom would be the interim general manager until August 8th, so he would have to.
You're talking about just in case, in the normal course of things.
Person's going down the road and
Yeah.
gets run over, and what
Well-
happens in that case?
Not sure that's in the charter or not, I don't know. That's a good question, I guess we'll have to look into that.
Okay?
One would think that might fall to the chair, but if it's not explicitly stated, then we probably can't assume that, so. I think that's something we can look into, good question.
Hasn't it been in the past though, Paul, if Tom couldn't sign something, you could?
But I mean, it hardly ever happens. We've been fortunate. Yeah,
Thomas has a comment?
yes,
Thomas has a comment.
oh, sorry.
The board could authorize a specific contract to authorize the general manager or another designated officer of the district to sign in that case. But you need specific authorization.
Seamlessness of something happens untowards and
Oh, it's a good point. It is a good point.
So I think, Thomas, just the question is, in general, if something unexpected happens, do we need a explicit motion or action by the board to authorize someone else to sign it, or is it like in our charter that?
There's nothing in the charter that would have someone just by their title have
Okay.
the authority of the general
Okay.
manager if the general manager is incapacitated or unavailable. So you need to have some specific authorization by a vote.
Would
And it
it,
could be done at the time that you're approving a particular contract or act.
but would it, for instance, work to, in the annual organizational meeting, authorize a person, be it chair or vice chair, or to, have a blanket authorization should the general manager not be available for signature? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To cover for the year, kind of, So maybe in our next annual organizational meeting, we can do that. That seems,
I also want to say that the NYSER sent us a different agreement. That's what's in the packet. It simply has some boilerplate language that the state requires that was not in the original agreement. Child support and taxes due to the state language that's in all their contracts. So the one that's in the packet doesn't have that language, but everything else is identical.
we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion on any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Great. Next is a roll-off truck, and I believe that's Lee is going to introduce that.
Thank you. Just to kind of give a brief overview, CSWD currently owns 2 roll-off trucks, a 2010 model, or 2005 model, and a 2012 model. Both of the trucks, well, one truck, our primary truck, is operating 5 days a week with a full-time employee, and our secondary truck is operating approximately 3, sometimes 4, and lately 5 days a week as well. We've seen a slight increase, almost around 8% in the roll-off trucking needs that we have. You know, we're servicing all of our drop-off centers as well as some of the needs of the environmental depot, and Green Mountain Compost, and the special waste facility program. Bob McGee, our maintenance supervisor, is here. He's in the back room. Bob and our primary roll-off truck driver reviewed the specs from our previous bid and determined some of the upgrades that they felt we should have in the future for this bid. And some of the major spec change, the biggest spec change, as it's outlined in the memo, is the automatic transmission. We didn't budget for this. It is about a $12,000 add, but it seems to be well in our favor. There's quite a few advantages. The biggest one is the increased fuel efficiency. This truck, you know, will no longer, not having a clutch, it's not subject to, you know, drivers' habits of riding the clutch or over-revving the engine or lugging the engine. And so the transmission and the engine are a perfect match, and they, you know, doesn't make a difference who's behind the wheel. So it'll also keep some of our maintenance, it should eliminate some of the unnecessary maintenance we might have from having a clutch and somebody that's not really a good driver with that. The other specifications is we did beef up the rear axle a bit. We do haul some pretty heavy loads of yard debris, and so we did go from a 46,000-pound rear axle to a 52,000-pound rear axle, which will increase the stability of the vehicle. And as well, we got away from the airbag suspension system, and this, you know, which was also rather high maintenance and rather costly as well. We've had good luck with the Kenworth cab. That's the model that we're proposing. It is not the lowest bid proposal, you know, and I do understand, and I'd be more than willing to defend any questions that may come that way on that with Bob's assistance. The thing that's nice, and we've been running these Kenworths, is the cab's a little narrower and a little deeper, which really allows for a more safer egress of getting in and out of it. Our drivers get in and out of these trucks dozens of times a day versus somebody that's driving a dump truck or driving, you know, another standard truck. And it makes it more of like a step to get in instead of a ladder. And so it is safer, more ergonomic for the employee. And Kenworth, for some reason, has a little, it seems like the only model, has like a little, we call it a peep window. It's down in the lower passenger door, which is just great. It kind of eliminates that blind spot for the driver. So with that said, there are a lot of advantages to the Kenworth model truck that we're proposing. The financing also is a little bit different because, and that's explained in the packet as well, because we don't feel we're going to be experiencing the big expenses in regards to the Burlington Drop-Off Center project and the Heinsberg Center project, that we would have sufficient funds in our FER to pay for this instead of going out and paying the time that Susan would have to work on developing a lease, and also the interest that we'd have to pay as well. In our operating budget, we do have payments because when we budgeted it, we were budgeting the lease. And so what we will do is we will keep those payments as we have budgeted and just pay that money back to the FER. So I'm asking the board to authorize the general manager to go ahead and authorize us to purchase this truck from Green Mountain Kenworth. And so I'd be more than glad to take any questions.
Move to authorize general manager as printed.
Okay, we have a motion. I have a question. What is the projected useful life of this truck? Well, of any truck. In our capital plan, we hold on to a truck for 10 years. That's what your payback schedule is going to be, 10 years?
No, I believe our payback schedule, Susan, is like 5, right, or 7?
We
Budgeted
budgeted
for-
at 5.
So what we have is our 2005, a little bit more. We skipped a year because we were trying to keep money in capital, so that's why we're not, talking, why we don't have a 2007 instead of a 2005.
A second on that, actually, I know we had a
I'll
first.
second it.
All right. Any other questions on the motion for the roll-off truck?
I just have a question about the process.
Mhm.
Major capital expenditures. I'd like to understand the process. On the back, where you have this comparison, well, first you say that the driver was not able to test drive the Western Star or the
I think we did.
Freightliner. And you said the vendors were unable to provide a test drive. Does that mean that that's part of their policy, or you were not able to schedule it, or what was the?
I guess they weren't able to schedule it. Bob contacted them. I'll let him speak to that if you'd like, Bob.
So, being a new kid on the block and being able to roll out truck, we wanted to make sure that he had the opportunity to look at anything. I went to a truck show through Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns and looked at all the trucks. I'm on the mechanical end of it, components and everything else. Our driver is the person that has to sit in every day. And we talked to all the vendors that were involved in the bid process to at least bring a truck to us, or we would go to them. The only successful one that came to us was our current vendor, which is New England Kenworth. The second one being Charlie Boys up in Milton. The unfortunate thing, when the driver went up there to try a truck out, it was not one of the trucks that we were going to, that was spec'd out for it. It was a 2016, and it really didn't have what we were asking for in the bid. Because what the bid shows is what you originally had. You had two successful trucks, the 2005 and the 2012. So what we did is want to make sure everything was apples for apples on that. The one that didn't show up, which was Clark's Truck Center, they were another one that were supposed to show up. The truck never came to our site to try it out.
So did you have, when you issued the RFP, did you say that providing a test drive?
It wasn't contingent on providing a test drive.
Okay.
Generally, they mostly, they want to sell you a truck, they want to bring it over and make, and have you take a drive.
I'm just trying to
and
understand
yes.
the process.
No problem.
And then the other question I had was where you had meets the specs and all the others didn't meet the specs. So if you spec it in a bid so we had only one bidder that could meet your specs? Is that
Yes,
what this
that
is
met it.
saying?
That met all of the specs to a T, yes. But it's not contingent on that. We offer in the bid for them to, there's a very important sentence, and it says that if you can't meet the spec, then please explain why or what else you are proposing. And if it's something reasonable, we wouldn't have a problem accommodating that. But if it's a later axle or it's something, then it's not fair to the one that
Rear
meets
brake
it.
sounds kind of big.
Pardon?
You mentioned rear brakes not meeting the specs.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're not adequate, then we
Right.
certainly, want to know about that while we're,
Okay, thank you, I'm just
no problem.
trying to understand.
Any questions?
What is the weight capacity of this vehicle when you have to load it?
You mean, what is the GVW or what is the net weight that we can carry legally?
Both.
Bob, I'll let you take that.
It's rated up to 80,000 pounds. This is the federal weight. Legally for us, it's about 70,000.
That's a good, healthy load.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Abstentions? Okay, excellent. Next is a discussion on the Flint Avenue property, and I'll turn that over to Brian to introduce that.
All right, so 2 months ago in April, we had the memorandum of understanding for the Flint Avenue property on the agenda. It was proposed that it be tabled for discussion until June. June is here, and we are taking it from the table and opening it up for discussion again. I've attached the MOU from April, or how we left off with it, just for reference only. In the past 2 months, a couple of other new ideas have come up. Listed here in your memo, the local city councilors from the south end were both, there's two of them, and they were both hoping to see some of the other current proposed developments be more complete before we propose a new drop-off center. One of them is the South End Market, which people are concerned about traffic, and it's due to be finished in about a year or so. And by then, the local community will at least be able to experience the traffic patterns from that new development. And then the Champlain Parkway is projected to be under construction in 2 years, and that will provide better access for commercial vehicles in and out of the south end. And those are two important projects for the community, and they wanted to see those projects advance before we proposed our new facility. And of course, we don't have an urgent need to get it done. We have a 3-year lease at 339 Pine Street, so we can delay our plans in that matter. The current proposal, and we can discuss this tonight, we don't have the MOU complete, though there is a draft out that the town of, our city of Burlington has proposed. I haven't passed it by Thomas yet. I wanted to take a stab at it first. The idea behind this current MOU would be to delay any lease purchase agreement for 3 years. And the city is willing to pay us up to $50,000 for us to achieve a 3-year delay. They propose that they pay us when we sign the MOU, and then pay us July 1st, 2017, July 1st, 2018, to delay our just developing our project until July 1st, 2019. So that would be that's the main idea behind their proposal. We're working out the language of the MOU, because now that it's a 3-year delay, there's a couple other things we need to make it all mesh and make sense. I talked with Chapin earlier today, and we might want to actually look at the language of the lease purchase agreement as well as the lease agreement going forward, even though those won't be agreed upon for 3 more years, just to be sure we understand and agree with the terms of those now, rather than wait 2.5 years from now and have conflict. I also want to make sure the language is clear on this $50,000 payment. It is non-reimbursable if the city does not execute a lease purchase agreement with us. So they have some skin in the game at this point, and that's the incentive for us to hold off for 3 years. So that's it in a nutshell. It's open for discussion, and be happy to answer questions.
Again, we're not looking for motion, but we are looking for discussion. So I wanted to first ask Chapin to, if you don't mind, talk about this. Especially, I'm interested in when do you think that you know the city of Burlington might be willing to sign the option, basically put that in place, sign up for the option.
So, thank you. The proposal is that we sign this MOU by August, and that you would have a 3-year period for signing the lease purchase agreement. We're not necessarily saying we're going to have to wait 3 years, but we want an option of a 3-year window. We we acknowledge that the district has held on to this property for a long time, and that there have been fits and starts at this, and we know there's fatigue on the board. So it was very apparent to us that we needed to make a financial commitment to the district, that we weren't stringing you along, that this was still a priority for us. But there are some very fundamental political hurdles that if we want to work together as a partnership to actually get the deal done, we need a little latitude to build the public support in a very dynamic area of our city right now where a lot of people are on pins and needles. So the councilors asked for this. Their initial review of this proposal was very favorable. And so we wanted to get a weather report from you all, and then with the supportive weather report here, we'll certainly work between CSWD and Burlington to hammer this out by August. I will say, Rob, it oversees the 339 Pine Street, the current area of the drop-off center. Lee, thanks for all the kudos you've sent us. Rob has really done a tremendous job to polish that place as best it can be polished, given its dilapidated status, and we are reinvesting in that place incrementally. And we did just sign the new 3-year lease as an indication of our commitment to keep a drop-off center in the city. So we fully are ready to be partners, and we hope that this commitment of money will be a demonstrable indication of that commitment.
So I'm a little confused, though. I'm sorry. Are you proposing or hoping that the goal being that the MOU would be signed in August, or that an agreement for an option 3-year delay? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it sounded like Brian was just saying in terms of some of the terms of the MOU could change between now and so.
Well, yeah, I just received their proposed changes 2 days ago, and I've read it over, but I really haven't put all the pieces or looked at it from every direction to see what might trip us up on that. I do think a three-year delay is a lot different than delaying it till next March, which was our original MOU, which makes me think that we need to be sure we're on the same page with all terms for the lease purchase and the lease itself. But I do think the intent is for the option to be part of the MOU and everything to be signed on that document by August. And my initial thought is that maybe we have the lease purchase and lease agreement for the 20 years after we sign the lease purchase for at least the terms of that agreed upon pretty thoroughly before we delay it for 3 years. That's where.
Chapin, it sounds like that you say the city council is favorable towards this approach.
The 2 members of the South End who represent this area were favorable to this approach, and has not been brought to the Broad City Council. But it usually matters like this, if the local counselors are supportive of it, that the rest of the council follows.
My apologies, Michelle, I just wanted to.
No, that's okay. Good questions. I agree with you 100%, Brian, about getting the terms of the MOU set. This is kind of an option. The first stage is an option on the MOU. You need to get the terms of the MOU set before you can sign an option on an MOU. I would like us to consider putting some kind of a time limit on when this option to the MOU could be signed. Just, it doesn't need to be August. I think that if it were, had a deadline of maybe October, November, mid-November, something like that, so that we're talking about 5 months for the negotiations about the terms of the MOU to be done, but that we're not leaving this open to hang there in case the rest of the city council isn't as aligned as you'd hope they would be. Chapin?
Can I clarify that? The option would be the option to execute a lease purchase agreement or not. The option and the MOU are one and the same document. So the option is part of the MOU. So really they have the option.
Great.
That was
whatever that document is, we need to put a deadline on it.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to discuss that some. Maybe, I don't know about this meeting, you and Chapin may want to talk about this and it gets discussed again at the executive committee meeting, since we're not voting on this now, and give this a little more thought.
Absolutely. So, let me let Lynn.
I agree with Michelle on this. We've been playing kick the can down the road on this for a long time. And it just seems that there's so many people that have to agree to this that, you know, we maybe seem to be getting a little bit closer, but then something else happens, and there's a lot of changes every time we get this, and you know, it needs to have some final date where we can say it's either going to go or it's not going to go.
I have a question for Chapin. Do you interpret the support of the South area, Southern Ward councilors as indicating that they don't anticipate any political buzzsaw over this? I mean, there's been a lot of stuff in the news about various proposals for the south end, and, you know, is there any sense of whether this is going to be a hot potato or something that will go by the populace without, I mean, I know Burlington's totally unpredictable, but I just want to know how to interpret the support of the South End Council.
I think our commitment to put the $50,000 on the table, non-refundable, is our commitment that we really want to make this deal work, if at all possible. The district had a favorable Ward 5 NPA meeting in December 2014, when this was last brought to our neighborhood planning assembly in that area. But we all understand that politics in Burlington is often a rough and tumble sport, and that the concern about traffic in the south end is inexorably tied to the Champlain Parkway. And without the Champlain Parkway, this relocated drop-off center will be bringing truck traffic through residential neighborhoods. So the proposal, when it goes to the Planning Commission, DRB, without the parkway, it's a much different proposal than it is with the parkway. And we are further with the parkway than we've ever been before. It's a broken record. I know it's got its Act 250 permit, it's got its federal permit, and I'm going to be the guy who gets it done. So with that said, you can laugh and watch it happen. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you.
All right, further questions or discussion on this? Again, we're not looking for a motion, we're just wanted a general discussion. I mean, I think it was a nice creative proposal, and I'm, encouraged that we continue that, so. Any other discussion? Okay, great, thank you. Next is other business. Any other business to bring before the board? Anything? How about program updates? Any questions on program updates? As always, there's a lot going on at the district, and I think things are well under control. Compost sales have been very good. Yes, Dan.
I guess the program update I would refer to, and I don't see it on there, but it's on the advertising. I was sitting in the movie theater and saw quite a good ad for CSWD. I like it. It really was encouraging me to recycle, encouraging me to note that it's the law. But one thing I notice about all of these ads is that they don't include the encouragement to clean the items. And I know that's a step up for people because we want to get them to do it. And then asking them to do more is sometimes prohibited. But I'm wondering if there's any discussion about that among the staff as to how to encourage the clean. I'm abhorred sometimes as I walk by the road and see the blue bins. And
let me let Claire.
Yeah, we now include rinse clean on all of our stickers, and whenever we talk about what is recyclable in our ads, specifically the items that are recyclable, we include contamination language as well.
good.
So that was specifically an ad designed to help people understand that it is the law.
Right.
So that was the focus of that ad.
Yeah, and that came across very well. And
I think I saw the same ad. I was happy with it because the music associated with it was a much more younger generation than my son would connect with. So I thought that was good. And maybe we'll reach a younger audience. So,
So was it the Moody Blues?
no, it wasn't. Any other updates on program updates? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those nay? All right, you're adjourned. Thank you very much.